senses.
So what's up everybody? Basically I'm just making this video to let everyone know exactly what goes on during your green card application and what forms you actually will need and where to go from there. So what I'm going to start off with is I'm just going to tell you basically what my situation is. I'm currently applying for my green card. I came to America on a visitor's pass, visa waiver, because I'm from England. Whilst I was here, I ended up bumping into a woman, and honestly, she was amazing. Literally, first day I met her, I ended up falling in love with her, and I knew there and then that I had to marry this woman. She was just perfect. But enough of my sob story. Basically, after we got married, we'd been together for about 6 months, living together and everything, and we decided that I was actually going to stay here in the US. She didn't want to leave. She didn't want to come live in England with me. So excuse the gameplay. I don't really like to be on camera, but I don't mind talking. So anyway, so we decided to contact the UCIS and basically ask them, hey, you know, what forms do we need? Yeah, what do we need to send in? What evidence do we need? Like, talk us through the whole situation. And when I was speaking to them, they gave me a list of forms, and I was very, very happy with what they gave me at the time. Until, and I say until, I found out what they had told me wasn't entirely true. Now, what I mean by that is they did give me a list of forms that I would need. That was all well and good. They just happened to miss out a few things, and that's really what I wanted to explain to you guys today is what you will actually need to send them, and how you would need to send it, how much everything costs, because that's another difficult thing to try and find out, and what really to expect. So I'm going to do this across a couple of videos. I'm going to try and make them as short as possible so you don't get too bored, and basically, yeah. So here's where we're at the moment. So if you call the UCIS, you're going to actually have to ask them, what forms do I need, okay? What they'll start off with is they'll tell you the I-130. Now the I-130 is a petition from the petitioner. Now the petitioner is actually your partner, the US citizen. They're classed as a petitioner, you're classed as an applicant, and on each form it'll say the petitioner, what is the petitioner's address, blah 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 blah, or it'll say what is the applicant's address, blah 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 blah. So it's pretty straightforward. You'll find it pretty easy to work out who fills out what forms. But on the I-130, that's for the petitioner. Now the I-130, since December 2016, the price has actually changed. So if you've been looking up the price and you see that it was like, I think $300 and something, it's wrong. So in December, the last thing Obama did before he left office was he increased the price of the applications for a green card. Now that form now is $535. That's what it'll cost you just to submit that one form on its own. So next they'll tell you that you need the I-130A. Now the I-130A, what they don't tell you, and what I am going to tell you, is they don't just want one, they want two. They want one from the petitioner and one from the applicant. And I don't know why they don't tell you that. It obviously highly depends on who you get when you call them. But I called several times, spoke to 3 different people, and when I spoke to them, they all said the same things to me. They all told me the same forms. None of them said anything else. But the I-130A, both parties are going to have to fill it out. And not the same one, obviously. They'd have to do one each. So one for the petitioner, one for the applicant. So after that, they'll tell you need your G325 form. Okay, now this G325 form is pretty easy, simple to fill out. I think it's like 4 pages. But, you know, always make sure you have at least 2 copies. And I'll say that for all the forms. Make sure you have at least 2 copies of each form. And I don't mean, one for you and one for your partner. I mean, make sure that you have 2 copies for each person, because I promise you, you will make mistakes. You will fill it out wrong, you'll cross something out. That's not acceptable. Do not cross anything out. Do not put any lines through anything or change anything. They will not accept the form. It has to be perfect first time. Now, if you have a computer that you can fill these out on online, not online, sorry. If you have a computer where you have software, you can open it as a PDF and fill it out as a PDF on the computer, it'll go greatly in your favour. However, when you print it, make sure that it does not say, under any circumstances, do not forget to sign. Because I printed my forms out the first time and the second time, and both times it said clearly in a box, don't forget to sign, where I was meant to sign it. And I know that doesn't sound too bad to most people, but they won't accept it. Because it's not what the form is meant to say. So, when you get that, you make sure it doesn't say that on it, otherwise you're going to have to reprint it all and send it all back in. It's just a nightmare. So, the next form is the I-765, the I-131, I-864, I-131A. Now that one I want to specifically mention, okay? Basically, I sent in my applications and everything was good. I thought, fantastic, I've sent in everything. I didn't send in everything. I got a letter back, literally 2 weeks ago, saying that both parties have to fill out the I-131A, biographical information, which is basically who you are, where you come from, what your parents' name are, everything else like that. And it's not hard to fill out, but they do want one for each party. It's not a case of, hey, I fill it out because I'm the applicant, or hey, I fill it out because I'm the petitioner. No, they want both. So, after that, there's the I-864. No, I've said that one. The I-485. Now, this I-485, this one is very difficult, okay? Because this one will require you to remember things that you had no idea that you would even have to remember. I mean, like, previous addresses for the last 5 years, your mother's maiden name, middle name, last name, date of birth, where they were born, and everything else like that. It's about as intricate as you can get. As I say, both of you have to fill that out. So it's not just one of you. You have to fill it out together as a couple, because there'll be a few questions on there that you won't expect, such as how much does your partner earn? Can they support you? Things like that, And it's not as hard, but it's not easy, should we say. Now with this form is $1,225. But that one form, when you submit it, covers the G325, the I-765, the I-131, the 864, the I-131A, and the I-485. It covers them all. So people say, yeah, that's expensive, but for what you're covering in that one fee, it's not as bad as you think. But moving on from there. So the last thing we're going to talk about, and the last form I'm going to talk about, is the I-693. Now this is your medical documents, okay? Now the UCIS, they have a specific set of doctors that they use. They've all been registered with them, they've all signed some forms or something. I don't know what they've done to get on their register or on their list, but they've done it. And they will only accept it if it came from these doctors. So, my suggestion to you, call up the UCIS. Once you've done that, look into what doctors they recommend, because they will have doctors that they'll specifically recommend. Give them a call, get their numbers, but don't get the first one. Get several, at least 6. And call them up. It doesn't matter how far they are. It doesn't matter if they're further away than what you'd expect or anything else like that. If you've got a car, or if you really want this, you'll find a way. For me, I basically called literally the first 6 I got. Reason being is because the first one I called, it was going to cost me $700 just for the appointment. That's not the injections or anything else like that. That was just my appointment. So I called them, I asked them, I spoke to literally every single one of them, and the best price I found was $110 down in Plano, 2 hours away from me. And I didn't complain. Because I would rather spend $110 than $700. As I say, this company, this practice I went to, $600 cheaper or $500 cheaper minimum than everyone else. And it wasn't that they were horrible, it wasn't that their service was bad or anything else like that. It was just that she knew that people like me, people who don't have a lot of money, needed this appointment. So I went to see her and sat down. Now, here's something that I find very useful and I'm going to share it with you. Call up your old doctor in whatever country you're from. Email them, get in touch with them any way you can. Ask them for a full inventory or full list of all of your immunizations that you've ever had throughout your whole life. And it might sound a bit extreme, but this will help, trust me. When I went to the doctor, she told me how people don't bring any of their immunization forms, and they end up spending about $1,000 to $2,000 on just getting injections. And the UCIS won't accept your application without your medical forms. So you have to pay it. And it's not that the doctor's trying to rip you off, it's that they have to know that you've had these injections. So I contacted my old doctor, I asked for them, I got a full list. Now, no one told me to do this, I just did it off my own bat. But, lucky enough, it worked out for me. I only had to have 4 injections total. And that was it. And, as I say, my appointment was $110. But with my injections and the blood test, it ended up costing me $463, yeah. $463. And that wasn't bad. That was a good price. You know, I can't complain about it. I can't sit here and say, well, you know, it was stupidly expensive, because it was a lot cheaper than what it was meant to be, just because I had that information. And that's what I'll suggest to all of you. Go out, get that information, do whatever it takes to get it, and save yourself a couple of $100s. Now, the reason I put this form last is because it should be the last form that you need. And it's the last one you should get. You should get that medical documentation last. Second you get it, send everything in at the same time. Okay? Now, I'm going to tell you what else you need. And you won't find this information anywhere else. Literally, I looked everywhere. I didn't know until I spoke to someone who's already been through the process, and I got a letter back from the UCIS saying, you have 87 days to send in these forms. One of them was that I-131 that I told you about, that you both had to fill out. Because my wife filled mine out for me, so I sent mine in, but we didn't send one in for the wife. They need it. Next thing they'd need off you is your birth certificate. And I'm not on about just the petitioner, I'm on about the applicant too. One to prove that she or he is a US citizen. The other one to prove that you were born where you said you were born, you are the right age, you were born in the right place, and everything else like that. Because it's a government documentation saying that you do exist and that you're not just some guy wanting to change his name or something, I don't know. The next thing they'll need is your marriage certificate. And it has to be from the United States. It can't be from any other country. If you're marrying a US citizen, you have to be married in the US. Don't know why. It's just what I was told by the UCIS. Now, another thing that's really great to send in is 2 passport photos. Because they're going to need them for your work visa. And if they don't have them, they won't issue you your work visa yet. Okay? And the last thing to take in is a photocopy of your passport. Put all that together in the envelope, every single bit of it. And with your checks, and I say checks as plural because for the 485, write one check for $1,225 and you're sending it to the US Department of Homeland Security. And then write on the back of it, I-485. So they know exactly what you're sending it in for. I don't know why, it's just what they like. And same again for the I-130 as well. Do the same thing. Write it to the to the US Department of Homeland Security. Write on the back of it I-130 and put for $535. Okay? So when you send all that in, send it in bulk, like one envelope. Reason being is because it gets processed quicker, you'll get your receipts back quicker and everything else like that. Now the receipt you get is the I-797. That's what they'll send you back. That'll have your alien number and everything else on it. It'll also, one of them will have your appointment for your next step. And I'll tell you about that in my next video. So like, share, subscribe. Anyone else that you know is going through it, let's get the word out there so everyone knows what they actually have to do. Have a good night.